Dragapult, but now Dusknoir comes back into the mix.
Yeah, it's an interesting conversation because it does seem like Dusknoir lines up very well into the majority of the metagame, but is not as strong in the mirror match, specifically when the opponent has Crushing Hammers. But at Indianapolis Regionals, we did see Justin Neudorf get a top 4 finish with Crushing Hammer Dusknoir build, and that is what Daichi is going with on his side. Henry is going to kick off our game here at the North American International Championships, starting it off, I think the way most Dragapult players would dream. Badu in the active spot and Buddy Poffin searching the deck for 2 basic Pokemon with 70 HP or less, adding them to the bench as 2 Dreepy will join the party there.
I mean, if you were drawing up, like dreaming about how your tournament was going to start, if you're Henry, you're going first, you're starting with Badu, and you play a Buddy Poffin. You could, I mean, what?
Doesn't get better than that.
This is like a dream start. We'll see if he has an energy attachment to go with it. But, oh yeah, this is incredible start here. But these Dragapult mirror matches can be very volatile. There's a lot going on here with the Itchy Pollen taking away item cards. As you mentioned, now there's Crushing Hammers that can come into the mix. There's lots of damage counters being thrown around. Interestingly, we see an energy go onto the Meowth EX.
Yeah, and the Meowth being played in the first place as well on his opening turn. Of course, players unable to use supporter cards on the first turn of the game, as Last Ditch Catch was utilized from Henry, playing around a potential Watchtower from Daichi. And Daichi here with his opening Ultra Ball discards Meowth EX and Dragapult EX, Kyle. He's going to get the news here as he checks his prize cards that there are 2 Dragapult EX in his prizes. He is now going to need to find a Night Stretcher should he need to get into this Stage 2 attacking Pokemon.
And he has to do it now.
Yeah.
Otherwise, Itchy Pollen will cut off the Night Stretcher. So this is maybe one of the worst outcomes you could see. And usually you're pretty safe Ultra Balling away 1 Dragapult.
Yeah.
You have 3 in your deck. You can Night Stretcher 1 back later. But in this situation, it's one of the worst things that could have happened.
And to add to it as well, Kyle, he prized the one of Dusknoir,
yep,
which would be a potential bailout option should he get locked out of getting back Dragapult. Could attack with it, could use Curse Blast to just take knockouts. Not going to be available as it is also prized.
Yep, so I think a different story for both these players starting off. Of course, look at that. Yeah, right away.
I wonder if Henry's going to key in on what that means.
Well, but a heads-up play. I mean, this is part of why you do check for what's in your prize cards. If Daichi had not noticed that, maybe he wouldn't have done that. Maybe he would not have had access to Dragapult EX for really the entirety of this game. So right off the bat, you know, a heads-up play to give yourself the best odds of staying in this game.
Daichi does have a Lily's Determination in hand, perhaps the strongest draw supporter in the history of our game. The player can shuffle their hand into the deck and draw 6 cards, but if they still have 6 prize cards remaining, they get to draw 8 cards instead. That is a ton of cards, a very high percentage of your deck available to be seen on early turns. And look at this draw from Daichi. Dreepy, a couple Dracloak, Badu as well in the hand, and also Buddy Poffin. He'll be able to fully set up his board however he wishes.
Yeah, just an incredible draw off of those 8 cards. You also love to start with the Lily's Determination in your hand. That way you don't have to use a bench spot on Meowth EX like Henry had to do. You also saw a heads-up play from Henry using the Meowth EX right away to avoid any potential Team Rocket's Watchtower from stopping that Meowth EX from using that last-ditch catch. So both players already thinking steps ahead, even from the first turn of the game, giving themselves the best chance to set up and win here, because setting up is kind of the name of the game in this Dragapult mirror match. Now, you need to get those Dracloak out, start drawing cards, and set up.
A big change from the Chaos Rising expansion, of course, is the addition of Special Red Card. And with the introduction of Special Red Card, these Dragapult players are no longer playing Judge in many of their deck lists. And so without the activation of a Special Red Card or perhaps a Unfair stamp, there is no potential for hand disruption. So with this Pokepad, Daichi has been able to set himself up with multiple Stage 1 Pokemon in hand, ready to go for the next turn, knowing there is no risk of disruption. Henry kicks off his turn with the attachment of energy onto the Dreepy and his own Lily's Determination, which he, of course, fetched off the last-ditch catch last turn. He'll get himself 8 cards, and surely will be looking for Dracloak to continue to churn through his deck.
So you saw Daichi as well had Badoo and decided not to retreat into it and did not use Itchy Pollen. This energy attachment on the Pheasantipity EX is actually quite threatening. The next turn, if he can find Crispin and power up Pheasantipity EX, he can Cruel Arrow and go after a Dracloak on the bench, potentially slowing Henry down and cutting off some energy attachments on Henry's side. So, you know, normally you kind of go on autopilot. You're like, yeah, I want to get Badoo out right away, Itchy Pollen, take away item cards from my opponent, but Daichi deciding, no, in this situation, it's better to threaten something else.
And that decision goes all the way back to as setup was happening, because Daichi had a Dreepy in his hand. He had Pheasantipity and chose to start the Pheasantipity because he knew Cruel Arrow would likely be very strong. Henry, with not the most powerful of turn 2s, only 1 Dracloak found, and Daichi responds nicely after the Itchy Pollen. Crispin in hand, bringing 2 energies of different types from the deck into play. 1 energy will be able to be attached from the deck directly. 1 will go to the hand, and he will be able to load up this Pheasantipity. Cruel Arrow can target down one of Henry's Pokemon.
Yeah, and who needs Dragapult EX when you have Pheasantipity, I suppose? You know? This is going to put Henry in quite an awkward position. He does not have access to Shaman to protect his benched Pokemon. Most Dragapult decks also are not playing Rare Candy these days, so you have to slowly evolve up to your Stage 1 and then your Stage 2. So if Daichi can knock out this only Dracloak in play, he's going to be safe for another turn and just be able to control what Henry's able to do.
Daichi stockpiling some resources in hand, cannot play that Crushing Hammer with the use of Itchy Pollen on the last turn from Henry Chao. No harm, no foul there.
And look at this. Who cares about not being able to play item cards? He just evolved all of his Pokemon anyway.
Incredible setup there from Daichi. What a draw last turn he had off of his Lilies, and now Henry left reeling quite a bit. There's really no good response to this Pheasantipity EX's Cruel Arrow. You know, we talk so much about this card and its powerful flip the script ability, but it lines up very nicely as an attacker in the way these Dragapult decks have been built. Speaking of flip the script, Henry will activate that ability on his end. Does have himself a Dracloak to use a Recon Directive. Night Stretcher can bring another Dracloak into the hand. Not necessary, perhaps, with 1 being seen from the Recon Directive, but Lily's Determination also offered up. Does have Xerosic's Machinations in his hand as a tech option this weekend.
Yeah, I think Henry's deck very much tailored to deal with Alakazam, really respecting that as a threat this weekend. It's interesting to see what kinds of decks players were willing to devote deck space to try to tech against. You know, some players might be playing Shaman to counteract the Slowking decks. Some players might be using stuff like this, Xerosic's Machinations to target Alakazam. You only have so much deck space to work with. It's fascinating to see which players were worried about which matchups.
Boss's Orders added now to Henry's hand. He will use an Ultra Ball to search the deck for any Pokemon and add it to the hand. Ultra Ball, just a steadfast card in the Pokemon trading card game format for the last decade or so of the game. Continually reprinted and continually played in high counts and many archetypes. Will find Henry a Dreepy at this juncture, as he has gotten himself 2 Dracloak in play, which is his best response to this onslaught from the Cruel Arrow, giving him the highest chance to get a Dragapult EX in play. Also splitting up his energy attachment, ready to go, just needing 1 more energy and a Dragapult EX next turn, and thanks to Itchy Pollen from Badoo, already has the damage lined up on Pheasantipity to be able to KO it. He will also Boss's Orders here, trying to slow Daichi down a little bit. And just again, Itchy Pollen, no item cards on the right side of the table available this turn.
Yeah, so it might look like Henry is in an extremely unfavorable position, but there's lots of room to come back in these Dragapult matches. You see a small move here from Henry, playing Boss's Orders onto the Dracloak, trying to buy some time, knowing that Daichi's already used a Crispin. So the odds of him maybe having another one plus a Dragapult EX may not be super high. And if he doesn't find that Crispin, he's going to have to make a decision on whether to attach, use his attachment for the turn, retreat, and attack with Cruel Arrow.
But speaking of Crispin, Kyle.
Or he could just have it.
Yeah, he's got it. There it is. Second Crispin played from the hand, searching for 2 energy of different types. We'll grab a Psychic and a Dark, signaling perhaps the availability of a Fire in hand, or perhaps he will just retreat this Dracloak and continue to use Cruel Arrow. And it's an interesting call there because doing that does basically walk right into the attack from Henry on this next turn.
Yeah, Phantom Dive really isn't that strong here, though. You knock out the Badoo, but the damage counters you're going to put on your bench Pokemon are almost going to backfire if your opponent can set up the Monkey Dory, which is another very big part of this matchup. So the Cruel Arrow is actually stronger in this spot. And let's not forget, Henry does have that unfair stamp prize. That could have been a big, a big game changer in this situation. But doesn't have access to it and is unable to punish, kind of this aggression from Daichi.
He does, of course, play the new special red card, but unable to play it. Daichi having only taken 2 prize cards so far, and is going to choose here to disrupt in perhaps a different way. Xerosic's Machinations asking Daichi to lose out on a few resources he would have liked to have held onto. We know Dragapult's got to stay in the hand, that's for sure.
Yeah, now Daichi's got to make a decision. Do I value having these Crushing Hammers? Enough of the cards are important that he really has to make a decision here. He's got 2 Crushing Hammers, he's got a Boss's Orders, deciding, okay, these are the ones I'm going to have to part with. Interestingly, did keep 1 Crushing Hammer.
He just knows he's going to flip heads.
Yeah.
And there's the Buddy Poffin being played from Henry. Failed, perhaps, actually.
It's like Pokepads are being played.
Pokepad played to grab out Dracloak. Another one played to grab out Monkey Dory. No damage on his side just yet, but Monkey Dory, of course, is a huge player in these mirror matches. Bouncing back damage counters, using your opponent's Phantom Dives against them, as you hinted, Kyle. There is, we do see the first glimpse of it, Kyle. Alakazam in Henry's deck. He is playing a 1-1-1 Alakazam line. That powerful hand, that psychic draw. What do you think is going on here?
I'm not sure, Chip. But no, I think it's kind of an alternative to the Dunsparce that we've seen in this deck. But with the rise of Team Rocket's Watchtower, Dunsparce may be a little less reliable than it has been in the past. So having, just a thing where you can, if you draw a Pokepad, right, you can just get Kadabra, get Alakazam, draw some extra cards. It also gives you an extra attacker in some matchups.
I could see you having a pretty powerful 1-prize Pokemon board in this deck lined up now with the access to Alakazam. Honestly, never seen someone play it like this before, but it makes a decent bit of sense. Henry has sent Dragapult DX now into the active spot. Will recover a Dreepy, put it into play. Phantom Dive does take down Fezandipity. And now Henry deciding where to place the damage. Will split it up onto the true 2 Dracloak there on the bench and takes himself 2 prize cards, tying up the game. Though the board position does still favor Daichi, I would say. He was stripped of quite a few resources last turn.
Yeah,
he does have Crispin in his hand here, Kyle, as well. 3rd Crispin.
Yeah, I mean, at some point you have to think about running out of energy cards. There were 3 on that Fezandipity EX. We've already seen 1 go to the discard pile with a retreat. You do need 2 different types of energy in your deck in order to use Crispin effectively. And Daichi doesn't play a whole lot of energy cards. So that could start to become a factor here. And, in Henry's position, he is trying to come back. So sometimes you just can't play around everything. But
here it
hold
is.
on, Chip.
Crushing Hammer. This is a big one. And it is going to be a Tails. Unable to remove an energy from Henry's side.
Normally in this situation, you would be afraid of your opponent, playing a Crispin, getting Monkey Dory down, using a Drenabrain, being able to move 3 damage counters over to your Dracloak on the bench, and then knock it out with Phantom Dive. Because so many Crispin have been used so far, so many energy have been gone through, your opponent probably just doesn't have the resources left to pull off a Crispin and Monkey Dory here, so you're probably going to be safe from that Adrenabrain, and it's going to be a huge swing in this matchup.
Daichi, of course, could still use Cursed Blast to still deal with that Dracloak, but not doing it with the Monkey Dory does mean he would have to give up a prize card in order to do that, and that's a whole other level of consideration.
I think Daichi might have been able to win there, Chip.
Did he have it?
If he had Boss's Orders, you bring up Meowth, and then you can just Curse Blast onto the Dreepy. Phantom Dive can knock out both the Badoo and the Dreepy. That would have been game. I don't know if he had access to Boss's Orders, but yeah, that could have been 4 prizes.
Wow, that would have been his 4 prizes. That Meowth that Henry had to play, becoming a liability, but Daichi either didn't have it or didn't see it. Plays Lily's Determination as his supporter for turn and has Dragapult ready to go in his active. And now thinking through a Buddy Poffin, is it worth bringing down another Duskull to the board? That, of course, is a easy prize card for Henry to potentially take, though those Dracloaks, both already with 30 damage on them, equal easy prize cards as well.
And sometimes you just kind of get tunnel vision in these situations. You don't really think, oh, I can get 4 prize cards this turn. Normally, if you're going to use, Dusclops, Dusknoir, it's got to be like a big splashy thing where maybe you're getting 3 prize cards at once or knocking out 2 Pokemon EX at once. But that just might not have been something he was looking for. And now he may be in a difficult position there, but yeah, that's just one of the challenges of playing this kind of deck, being able to, see all the different lines of play available to you. It's really challenging.
And there's the pop of the Dusclops. Cursed Blast places 5 damage counters onto the Dracloak on the bench. 4 more from the Phantom Dive, 200 into the active, 2 more damage counters to play with. That Badoo, of course, an easy prize card for Daichi to take later in the game. Needs to decide where these other damage counters will go. 1 on Pheasantipity and 1 onto the Dreepy.
And now the good news for Daichi is still that his Dragapult is in no danger of being knocked out. He kind of has the clear advantage there. And Henry doesn't really have a good attacker set up to try to threaten this Dragapult or push something else into the active spot either. He doesn't have a good way to go for like a 2-hit knockout. So it is still really challenging for Henry because that Badoo is sitting there as an easy prize card off of the next Phantom Dive from Daichi. So
Daichi can still win with Boss's Orders on this next turn.
Yeah, or even just attacking into the active Dragapult.
Yeah, that is fair as well, just taking that out. So Henry will try to limit Daichi as much as possible here with his Unfair Stamp, a spec of choice for both of the trainers in this game. You can only play it whenever your opponent took a knockout on their previous turn. You send both players' hands into the deck. You get yourself 5 cards, and your opponent is left with only 2.
And now a big card in this situation would be Crushing Hammer, but does not look like Henry has chosen to play that card this weekend. That's
got to fit Alakazam in there somehow.
that is one of the things that's made these Dragapult matchups that much more unpredictable. At any point, you could just see a Crushing Hammer and really ruin your opponent's time with that. So now Henry's going to have to figure out a different way to go about this. He has to move this Dragapult EX out of the active spot. May even just see him go into Badoo in this situation, try to set some things up with Monkey Dory's Adrenabrain. But it's going to be challenging for him to find a way back into this.
Still has access to flip the script, drawing himself 3 extra cards. We do see Recon Directive as well, looking at 2, taking 1, sending 1 to the bottom, and does, of course, have to get this Dragapult EX out of the active spot, and it will be Badoo promoted here, trying to slow the pace of the game. Boss's Orders as well, forcing Daichi to find even more resources should he want to close out the game on this turn. He would need Boss's Orders and now an energy to retreat.
Yeah, let's not forget he has used quite a few energy cards at this point, so it won't be trivial to get this Dracloak out of the active spot.
3 damage counters bounced over from Henry's side to Daichi's Dragapult EX on the bench, and an Itchy Pollen pumps up the damage on Dracloak. Draw for turn on Daichi's side. Not going to reveal too much to us just yet. Sees a couple cards from the first Recon Directive. No help there from the Stadium and the Shaman. He does now find an energy card. Also Unfair Stamp offered up, but that is not going to be helpful at the moment. Item lock used, no KO taken. And honestly, Unfair Stamp may never be played from Daichi at this position. Henry may just try to play from this position until he wins the game, taking a 3-prize turn.
Yeah, and I think if you're Daichi here, you almost don't want to attack with your Dragapult until you find a boss's orders either. Like, you want to be able to win the game on your next attack if you can. Attacking into this Badoo really doesn't do a whole lot.
And from this board position, I don't think it's possible for Henry to win next turn. There's 280 damage onto the Dragapult EX. His bench is full. There's no way to get another Monkey Dory down, so I don't think Henry would have a way to take all 3 of his prize cards. He needs to buy 2 turns from this point, so Daichi has a bit of time.
Yeah, now Daichi did discard a boss's orders early on and then discarded one off of the, I think, off the Xerosix Machinations as well. So
It does only have 1 left in the deck, should that be the case. We can get a quick check of that discard pile to see what is available for Daichi. 2 boss's orders should be down. Looks like just the 1 at the moment tracked. So perhaps 2 floating around still in the deck available.
all right, well then he's got plenty of resources to still pull this off. It's just going to be a race against the clock at this point. Will he be able to find the cards he needs off of some of these recon directives?
And will he choose not to attack here, as you called out, Kyle, but looks like he will get this attachment here. Now, Henry may be down a decent count of boss's orders, so he may feel like he needs to get the attachment here so he has multiple ways to close out the game next turn, but he's going to drop it onto the active. Is maybe keyed in as well that Henry does not play Crushing Hammer at this point. He has not seen one just yet in this game.
So still back and forth game here. Not over by any means. Really getting scrappy at the finish. Yeah, we'll see, can Henry piece together some way to come back here?
Yeah.
It's not going to be easy, you know, still even, you know, a couple of Adrenabrains. It's still like 3 Adrenabrain away from getting that Dragapult EX into range. And another boss's orders.
Yeah, and this energy attachment from Daichi last turn getting punished by this extra gust on Henry's side.
Wow.
So now Daichi needing to find another energy card and boss's orders still to win the game on this turn. Draw on his side. We are going to see recon directives. There is the first one utilized, and now the second. Does find the energy. Does he have boss's orders? That would spell game, and does not look like he has it just yet. Still a turn away on Daichi's side, but Kyle, as you mentioned, yet again, no way for Henry to win on the next turn. And did Henry actually forget to use Adrenabrain last turn?
No, he moved the damage to the other Dracloak on the bench.
Okay.
So he's going for that route.
Okay, and then will just now be a pass from Daichi. Henry piecing this together.
I think Henry's trying to heal his Dragapult enough so that it can take a hit, and then you can wipe out both Dracloak at once. Maybe pair it with a special red card. Put your opponent onto a small hand size. But it is an interesting situation, right? If your opponent had boss's orders, clearly they would have played it. And so, putting your opponent's hand to the bottom of their deck gets them closer to a boss's orders. So, I don't know, this is such a challenging situation. Henry might just have to go for it here.
And he's going with this clean Dragapult, breaking the item lock, and going to hope that he can just close out the game in a couple of turns. Now with this Adrenabrain moving some damage over here, pumps up the damage on this Dragapult TX. He'll get a little bit of spillover here as only 20 is necessary to KO the Dracloak on the bench. And now this Dragapult TX on Daichi's side. Perfect math setup with yet another Adrenabrain would be nice to close it out for Henry on his next turn. But if Daichi can find his
boss, orders,
that is going to be game. He doesn't have it yet. And I think his only draw option available, Kyle, is the unfair stamp that he has in his hand. I think he is now just going to be thinning his deck as much as possible. Get all this junk out that he does not need, and he's going for game on this turn. It is boss's orders or bust here for Daichi. He can bench these Pokemon. He knows he's going to lose the game next turn regardless. So just get them out of the deck and give yourself the highest odds off of these 5 cards to find the one you need.
All right, unfair stamp. Will the A-Spec deliver the game-winning boss's orders for Daichi here? A back-and-forth game. You can see the tension on his face, knowing it's draw boss's orders or lose.
Yeah, both players very aware of the situation of what Daichi needs to take his final 3 prize cards here. Hoping for
please.
a boss on these 5 cards, and it's the first one. Daichi takes the KO on a Meowth, spreads damage to the bench, KOs Badoo, and that is a 3 prize turn and a game 1 win.
Pointing to the sky as a thank you. His prayers were answered, needing the boss's orders off of that unfair stamp. And May breathing in a sigh of relief. You know, you have to wonder at some point, did he realize that he could have won earlier?
Yeah, does he know he missed game?
Yeah, and then, you know, when you realize that, it can really weigh on you and really create this feeling of stress, like, oh, I'm going to blow this game that I could have won, but now I won anyway, so let's forget about that.
For Henry, he was on the back foot very early in that game. The cruel arrow was not kind to him on Daichi's side. We got Pablo standing by, ready to give some of his thoughts on what we saw from this game 1.
What a way to start this NAIC, guys. A really cool game. That Serendipity start was obviously very strong from Daichi. I wonder if he had prior knowledge. I mean, in this metagame, you're probably betting on your opponent having Dragapult, right? And you're going to get a good response on that bet. But overall, I feel like his start was so strong, then he missed game, and he almost ended up losing. So very good from Henry to be able to stabilize. I want to see cleaner play from Daichi in this next round.
Thank you, Pablo, for your insights. As these players are setting up now for a game number 2, Henry will have the option of going first or second here. I do have to imagine first will be his call, hoping to be the first one to evolve and ultimately get a Dragapult into play on turn 3. The fist bump has been extended, and actually no, Puka. Henry has chosen to go second here.
Yeah, very interesting, because he won the flip in the first game and decided to go first.
Yes.
And now after seeing the matchup, has decided to go second instead. So really valuing being able to be the first player to use a Lily's Determination, draw a bunch of cards, and set himself up. We see in the second game, prize cards, not that bad. Remember, Daichi did have 2 Dragapult EX and his Dusknoir prized in the first game, did not end up mattering. Sometimes you are able to work around what's in your prize cards, and that's exactly what happened in the first game.
Yeah, nothing detrimental here to his overall game plan. He will play out a decent amount of items here from this opening hand, it looks like. A pretty standard line in this matchup, as he is wary of Henry's Badoo over on the other side of the table, so wants to play these item cards while he can, and we'll see him take a play out of Henry's book from game number 1 as Meowth EX has been added to his hand now. I think Daichi probably has the knowledge based on the game 1 that Henry does not play Team Rocket's Watchtower, so he perhaps won't use the Meowth right away, though he maybe doesn't know for sure, so that is always a bit of a consideration. Does he preemptively play the Meowth EX, hoping to dodge a Watchtower from your opponent?
Yeah, he did see a Risky Ruins go to the discard pile in the first game. Now that doesn't necessarily mean your opponent doesn't play Team Rocket's Watchtower. We've seen splits, like 1 Risky Ruins, 1 Team Rocket's Watchtower, but yeah, you probably feel like it's safe, but we'll see if he just wants to play it down anyway. Obviously, the bad situation would be you play it and then you like draw a supporter next turn, and it's like, why did I play this Meowth? So there is benefit to just waiting, but yeah, there is a risk if you think your opponent could be playing that Team Rocket's Watchtower.
Daichi will hold off now, adding a Duskull and Monkey Dory to the bench, holding on to Meowth, and I'm sure he is hoping for a top deck of Lily's Determination so that Meowth does not have to come into play. Henry will kick off his sequence here with a Pokepad, Searching for any Pokemon without a rule box and adding it to the hand, it will be Badoo, Eyed Up, and Dawn as his supporter for turn. Talk to me a little bit about Dawn in these Dragapult decks. We see it most often alongside Dusknoir, as there are 2 Stage 2 lines there available to give value to your Dawn. But Henry is playing 2 copies this weekend.
Yeah, it's really paying respect to Badoo, and a lot of time in these mirror matches, you just want to have ways to find your evolutions. You want to find a way to get Dracloak and then Dragapult, and when your opponent is using Itchy Pollen, you can't use your item cards to find them. So Dawn is kind of a slow supporter card, but it lets you set up when you're in these slower situations, so it works nicely. Now, big thing, Daichi did miss an energy attachment as well on his first turn. So, you know, the first game we saw him be very aggressive, right? Turn 2, attacking with Fezandipity EX. Now, there's going to be no aggression anytime soon. Missed the attachment. This can really set you back. Now, Henry did have to pay to retreat and kind of lost his first attachment as well. But Daichi's going to be under a lot more pressure in this game, not getting that first energy attachment and already being under the item lock.
Oh, and not finding an energy off the lilies for 8 here either, Kyle. He does have Dracloak. Just 1, though, at the moment, so debating which Dreepy to evolve, his active or the one on the bench. He will choose to evolve the one on the bench, looking perhaps for an attachment here. So let's look at the top 2 cards. Did he find one? I don't think so. Crispin can make up for this a little bit, but on turns that you play Crispin, sometimes you'd like to be playing Boss's Orders. That doesn't feel good when you don't even have that option. You're forced into playing your Energy Excel.
Yeah, and I think some players would be tempted to use the Dusclops here to just knock out the Badoo and say, I don't want to get Itchy Pollen again on the next turn. That is a very risky play, especially knowing your opponent plays Unfair Stamp. You could, get set to a 2-card hand immediately before you're set up. So Daichi wanting to be a little bit more patient. And also that Badoo is kind of a liability as the game progresses.
I think Daichi just having a nod to Alakazam there, discarded from Henry. That is the first time it has been revealed publicly for both players at this point. Having a bit of a laugh about the situation here, the deck list choice. And there's a nice setup here happening for Henry, and he is going to play Crispin now for turn. Can load himself up with a couple of energy cards into play, perhaps once again, as we saw in Game 1, splitting them onto the 2 Dracloaks. No, we'll load up just the 1.
Yeah, he's thinking about it.
There's the world of a Dragon Headbutt, take a prize card, but it's a pretty costly trade to take.
Yeah, I think that one's a bit too aggressive, but yeah, also stacking 2 energy on 1 opens you up to Dusknoir, Curse Blast, wiping both of your energy out of play. So Henry, deciding to kind of hedge his bets there and, split the energy rather than stack both on 1 Pokemon just in case. It would be such a big setback to have both energy removed from play.
And Daichi will be the first one to get a Dragapult EX in play, but will not be the first one to Phantom Dive, as he has still been yet to find an energy to attach into play. And even if he had had Crispin there, he wouldn't have been able to Phantom Dive this turn. He has to retreat the Dreepy and also accelerate to the Dragapult EX.
Doesn't feel good to leave yourself with 0 recon directive in play, but also wouldn't feel good if Henry...
There's no energy again. 8 more cards for Daichi, and he is going to miss an attachment for yet another turn.
I was going to say, it's also not great if Henry plays Boss's Orders, knocks out both the Dracloak and the Dreepy, then you pretty much lose. But this doesn't seem very good either, Chip.
No, not ideal at all. A bench of a Duskull, a play of the Watchtower, and a pass. Lily's Determination slammed as the supporter for Henry Chao.
I think maybe getting ahead of himself there. Had a Dragapult he could have played before that. But I think Henry's starting to realize I have a very real chance to win this game quickly. And if I'm going to win this match, I need to win 2 games. So it's time to pick up the pace. Time to maybe start getting aggressive, and may have been a little bit hasty there. Didn't play the Lily's Determination, or didn't play the Dragapult EX before the Lily's Determination.
That is the trade-off when you play quickly. Your correct play percentage does go down slightly. You have to recognize the situation. You know, playing perfectly is not necessarily as important in a spot like this where your main enemy is the clock, and Henry is the, oh, here comes Abra.
I don't think that's coming into play.
Yeah, that is just an easy one prize card for a many different ways on Daichi's side, to be honest, with just thinning the deck here at this point. But I've watched a lot of Henry Chao's games over the last couple of years, and he is one of the best players when it comes to recognizing the clock situations. I've seen him fly through and finish games with decks like Gardevoir and Dragapult, decks that typically take a long time to play, you know, knocking out and closing out games in well under 10 minutes.
Yeah, but deciding to be patient here still. Did not go for a Phantom Dive, not wanting to risk, you know, a big, like, unfair stamp, crushing hammers, those sorts of things. Your opponent does have Dusclops set up, so it is possible that you could be in a very difficult situation after you take this knockout, and instead opting to set up the Monkey Dory with Adrenabrain and saying, I can wait one more turn. I'm not under any pressure yet. But yeah, at some point you do have to think about, how can I win this game and give myself enough time to win the next one?
Daichi will finally get some energy cards into play. It does come by way of Crispin as his supporter for turn, pulling two differing types out. We'll load up this Dragapult onto the bench, and yes, just a pass over now to Henry. Gotta wonder, when is it gonna be go time, and perhaps the find of the boss's orders makes that decision a bit easier, as he could be the first one to attack into his opponent's Dragapult, though he does need his own Dragapult still. He's not found it just yet. Needs an Ultra Ball or a Dragapult to make it happen. Will Thin with a Buddy Buddy Poffin here first before this final Recon Directive gives him one last chance. And actually, no, nothing to take out of the deck here, just a shuffle.
And I'm curious what Henry will go after here. If he has boss's orders, you could just go after the Dusclops and the Duskull, take a 2 prize card turn, really take away your opponent's kind of explosive option to get damage onto your board. There's so many different avenues you could take here, and this is where the games really do get complicated, and one mistake can punish you pretty badly. And we'll see what the thought process is for a top player like Henry in these tricky situations. How will he navigate it?
He did have himself Dragapult EX in hand, so now just has to debate. What does he do? And it will be another turn of the Itchy Pollen.
Yeah. That too. You don't have to rush. Your opponent has really limited their bench in this situation. Now, the more time you give, the less effective these Itchy Pollens are going to be, because you can eventually set up Monkey Dory and start Adrenabraining. But I think Henry is trying to prepare as best as possible for the onslaught of crushing hammers that could come his way after, you know, he breaks this item lock. Oh.
And he maybe was waiting for this. Xerosix Machinations, a painful supporter to be hit with after you've been item locked for so many turns, and Daichi will lose quite a few resources there. Looks like an Ultra Ball went down, as well as a boss's orders. And Henry will bench himself the Monkey Dory, gets the energy attachment, and just continue with the Itchy Pollen. Now, perhaps this game will go Henry's way, but the longer this game goes on, the much less likely it is that this set will conclude. Daichi actually just passed, Kyle. Did not have anything to do at all after being hit with the Xerosix, and Henry back off to the races yet again. Just a breadth of options available in his hand. And he will go now with the boss's orders. He's ready to go on the move to get this first attack in.
Yeah, with the second Monkey Dory setup, I mean, it's so annoying to deal with. There's so many damage counters that can be moved back your way. And Henry deciding to go after kind of the energy attachments in this situation, knowing that that is kind of the biggest resource here. And yeah, just not even taking a knockout yet either, not wanting to play into unfair stamp or anything like that.
No unfair stamp, no potential for 2 Monkey Dory being established as well. Making sure that Daichi's board stays locked, as he will get 1 Monkey Dory established at least, his own Adrenabrain online. Henry looking to have a massive swing on the next turn, and Daichi here, we got to start asking the question at some point, Kyle. When does a game get too far gone? There's no prize cards taken just yet, but the board position is so heavily favoring the player on the left.
And I think the issue for Daichi is that where does he go from here? He can Phantom Dive, maybe knock out a Dracloak or something on the bench. But then his Dragapult will go down, and his only Dreepy on the bench will also go down to another Phantom Dive. And he'll just be stuck with no attackers left in play, and Henry might be able to just kind of coast to victory. But we'll see what ends up happening here. We do also still have, the threat of the Cursed Blast from Dusknoir, Dusclops, and
a heads on a Crushing Hammer as well. Daichi will take a moment to take stock of Henry's energies. Looks like just one Dark in the discard pile. Will bump that Psychic from play and will take the KO here. Gonna hold his breath and hope that Henry is unable to find a Psychic energy this turn in order to attack.
Yeah, if Henry is able to use Phantom Dive here, it seems all but over. He's just gonna have such control of the board at that stage. Risky Ruins as well will generate some damage for him to use Monkey Dory's Adrenabrain if there are any basic Pokemon left.
Yeah, and that is a big if here, as I do not see any. There is a Chi-Yu in the deck, but that's got more than 70 hit points, so he can bring that out through way
we
of
got
another.
Abra.
Oh, Abra here saving the day. And honestly, a way that you can generate damage infinitely with this deck, right?
That's true.
Put it into play, bounce the damage counters over, and then use that teleporter ability to send it back in. As Henry will promote his Dragapult, he needs to find a Psychic Energy. Got a couple damage counters over onto his opponent's side. He'll bring back another Dreepy. That's a couple more damage counters. We could see a 4-prize turn here from Henry, should he want it. Taking down Duskull and the Dreepy. And he will play Rosa's Encouragement as his supporter for turn. A supporter that came out from Perfect Order. You can only play it whenever you have more prize cards remaining than your opponent. But if you do, you get to attach 2 basic energy cards from your discard pile onto one of your Stage 2 Pokemon. A perfect partner for Dragapult EX. We see it most often in Dusknoir builds. And he does also combo this play with an Unfair Stamp.
Not bad, Chip. Not a bad turn at all. But you could see Henry was building up to this, right? This was a masterclass in patience and not attacking too quickly. Setting yourself up for a long-term board position rather than a quick advantage. You can see now the Unfair Stamp coming in. He's going to be able to use Flip the Script, build up so many cards in his hand. He's going to be able to knock out the only Dragapult EX in play and the only Dreepy in play. Daichi will be left with no attackers for several turns. And I don't know what the path to coming back would be at that stage. There's Monkey Dory set up already. There's damage counters to move. So, you bench a Dreepy, it's going to get knocked out by Phantom Dive. What do you do here?
Yeah, this is an incredible play here from Henry. 4-prize turn down to just 2 prize cards remaining. Daichi with nothing to do but promote this Monkey Dory. He's got himself a Crispin. He has no draw power available, though. There's no draw supporter. There's no Dracloak in play. Doesn't even yet have a Psychic Energy. He does have the Dusclops. He will pop that to take out the Dreepy, grab himself a prize card looking for some help. Does find Buddy Buddy Poffin. Don't know how
about
much
to see the
aid
mind
that
bend
will be, and I do think we are gearing up towards a mind bend here, Kyle. And Daichi will use that as his way to try to slow Henry down from here.
I don't know how effective it's going to be, given that your opponent can just move the 6 damage counters back.
Also, another fact as well, the confusion, not a big deal because Henry has Abra.
Yeah.
He can bench the Abra. He can retreat the Dragapult into it, and that's exactly what he's going to do here. Get himself out of the confusion, teleporter away, and doesn't have to worry about any flips. Henry Chao takes Game 2, tying this set.
What a clever addition to this deck. You can see all sorts of tricks going on here. I was wrong. We were going to see Abra in this game. It's typically a liability with such a low amount of HP, but yeah, that ability being able to kind of act as a switch and also wait to reset it so that you can play it repeatedly and keep generating damage counters off of the risky ruins. What an incredible series of events we just saw there.
Wow, what a game. Number 2. What a setup here. Henry just slowing the pace of the game mightily. Daichi not aided from his deck in this situation as he had no energy cards to attach, but it was a patient one from Henry Chao. Just the use of Itchy Pollen over and over and over again until he got to the board position he knew he wanted.
Yeah, slow and steady. Sometimes it's not about taking the prize cards, it's about getting yourself in position to win later on. And we saw that there. No surprise to see from someone like Henry Chao. I think there were some questions from people, probably not very good questions, but what's he going to do now that there's no Gardevoir EX?
Yeah.
Turns out players of this caliber are just tied to a single deck.
Yeah, he's going to be just fine. And has found a new friend in Dragapult as the players are setting up here. Daichi choosing to go second here in this game 3. Henry will kick off game number 3 with the play of a Pokepad, and he started his own Pheasantipity here, Kyle. Oh, how the turntables as the Pheasantipity may, in fact, for his side, start laying some damage down onto his opponent's board. He would need an energy card this turn to make that a reality. He's going to check a couple prize cards here, Kyle. And I think the big story for this game number 3 is just going to have to be the clock. We're approaching 4 minutes remaining here. It's probably very likely to see this one end in a tie, but what are the outs for both of these players here? What is the most likely scenario where one of these two would come away with 3 match points from this round 1?
It would probably have to involve someone not drawing a good hand, not being able to play very many of their cards. Unfortunately, both these decks are pretty slow to set up, and they're both kind of built to slow the game down a bit as well. So it would really probably have to be a situation with like a lone basic Pokemon or not being able to evolve any of your Dreepy, anything like that.
Ooh, Kyle, Daichi's hand is not great. There's no draw supporter. He's able to find a Dracloak here. He's got Crispin, but he's got no Lily's Determination. He's got no Ultra Ball to fetch out Meowth or anything like that. So
we're going for the Mind Bend to block the Cruel Arrow?
That may be what we see here with Henry's aggressive attachment to the active. And with the situation only 3 minutes left on the clock, will Daichi go for this Mind Bend? That would seem like a really nice answer here.
Well, yeah, because you also don't want to really commit too many energy to your bench Dreepy if they're just going to get knocked out by a Cruel Arrow. So let's, make it as hard as possible.
Wow. Did not think I was going to be seeing this setup. But Henry here with...
Henry's hand is nothing.
Nothing, and he's got a Dracloak to live on at the moment. He does find himself another Buddy Buddy Poffin, but no supporter, Kyle? No energy cards?
I don't see anything, Chip. There's just a whole lot of nothing. Now, Monkey Dory isn't the fastest at winning a game for you with Mind Bend, but, I mean, it can knock out this Badoo. Unfortunately, when you do that, you give your opponent access to flip the script. So this is going to present an even more awkward situation.
Big 3 cards here for Daichi that he'll see. Draw for turn was a shame, and Recon Directive does find himself yet another Dracloak and one more Recon Directive. Looking for something to help here. Does find a Pokepad, unable to play it. He does have an Energy and a Dragapult EX in his hand, so he can gear up for a potential Phantom Dive next turn. Cannot play this Pokepad. Yeah, make sure we don't pick up the deck there. That would lead to some prize penalties, most likely. Henry making sure that does not happen. Daichi will try to slow Henry down as much as he can with his boss's orders, bringing up the Dreepy, attaching for turn to his Dracloak, trying to gear up for an attack on the next turn. 90 seconds left on the clock, and is going to Mind Bend here, put some damage counters into play. Recon Directive on Henry's side.
I think was debating, should I Adrenabrain just knock this out, but then you give your opponent access to flip the script?
Yeah.
With the Pheasantipity EX.
And no question about if it would be available, as Pheasantipity was the starter for Henry. Boss's orders now from Henry after a energy to retreat. We'll try to continue to slow this pace here. There is the Dragapult in hand. Should Daichi find his Crispin, he could still attack with this active. He will evolve his Dragapult up and is going to play Lily's Determination, shuffling the hand in, drawing 8 cards, just giving himself the best chance to find an energy to continue his setup here. And the way this one is playing out, Kyle, now under 60 seconds to go, does very heavily lean towards a tie. Of course, after time expires, these players do get 3 additional turns, turn 0, 1, 2, and 3, to try to finish a game, though I don't know that either player will be able to satisfy one of the win conditions of the Pokemon TCG in that time frame.
Not if you don't draw an energy card, Chip. There's not going to be any attack happening this turn from Daichi. And yeah, I think you are right on the money there. It is looking like time will expire in this one, and unfortunately we probably won't come to a conclusion here, but we did get to see some excellent games to kick off this event. We're going to see yet again the Xerosix Machinations has been a very annoying card for Daichi to deal with, always having to discard some amount of important resources.
It's one of those cards in the format that I think everyone recognizes like is no fun to play against. Like just being hit with a Xerosix at any random time is going to make you question what you're supposed to do. It's going to put you in a tough spot, but it's a difficult card to slot into a deck. It's a difficult card to justify one of your 60 spots too, and it has put Daichi in a tough spot in all 3 games thus far.
Yep, it's kind of thing, too, where you think you're making the right decision now, and then a couple turns later, you're just like, why did I discard that boss's orders? I just needed 1 more to win the game. It's hard to think that far ahead and be like, I'm going to need this eventually, versus weighing out what's in your hand right now that you need to do something on the next turn. So, yeah, very, very annoying card to deal with, and also one that kind of uniquely gives your opponent a chance to make a big mistake. But it is a very slow card, and it's hard to find turns sometimes to play a supporter card like that.
Henry was turn 0. Daichi will be turn 1. He does have Crispin to juice up this Dragapult here. And if there is a player who could win this game, it certainly would be Daichi from here. Henry's board is much weaker. So with 2 turns remaining, I mean, Daichi's only chance to win would be to clear all Pokemon in play. He cannot take 6 prize cards, so he has to rely on Henry not finding more Pokemon to put into play. So he'll play to that out at least, which is, of course, commendable. He'll bounce a damage counter over there to take the first prize card here. He's unable to KO anything off the bench. Played Crispin for turn, so boss's order is not an option. And I think the players may be recognizing the situation and will extend the hands. We do end round 1 here at NAIC with a tie.
Yeah, unfortunate we don't get to see a winner in our first round, but again, those were some incredible games, really back and forth for both sides, and saw some really clever maneuvers from both players, and you got to see maybe why that Alakazam is in Henry's deck, even though we never saw the Abra evolve into Kadabra or Alakazam. Just having that Abra can be a fun little trick.
Yeah, very nice addition. And yeah, the Alakazam lining up pretty nicely in a format where people are perhaps taking Judge out of their decks. You know, Special Red card is still floating around.